I'm Caleb Hayes. I'm 38 years old. I'm a lineman. I fix power lines. On April 17th, 2025, one of those lines killed me. I was up on a pole just outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was a routine transfer. Hot, sticky day. The kind where your shirt is soaked through by 9 a.m. I remember the smell of asphalt and fresh cut grass from a lawn nearby. I was thinking about my son Leo. He had his first t-ball game that night, and I promised him I'd be there. I could almost picture his face, the way his helmet was too big and would wobble when he ran. My partner Dave was on the ground. He shouted something up to me, but the wind caught it. I leaned a little to hear him, just a few inches. That's all it took. My arm brushed a high voltage line that everyone thought was dead. It wasn't. The last thing I felt was a vibration that shook my bones into dust. It wasn't pain. It was bigger than pain. It was erasure. The universe screaming inside my head for 1 second, and then absolute silence. My body went stiff, and I fell from the pole. I was dead before I hit the ground. I wasn't a bad guy, I don't think. I loved my wife, Emily. I loved my boy. I worked hard, paid my bills, and went to church on Christmas and Easter, like a lot of folks. My life was simple. Wake up, drink coffee that was always a little too strong, kiss my wife goodbye, and climb poles. In the evenings, I'd help Leo with his homework or throw a baseball in the yard until the fireflies came out. I had worries, sure. The mortgage felt like a mountain we were always climbing. I worried if I was a good enough father, a good enough husband. My prayers were simple, quiet things whispered in the dark before I fell asleep. God, please keep them safe. Please help me do right by them. I believed in God, but I guess I saw him as distant. Like a CEO of a huge company you know exists, but you'll never, ever meet. I never expected him to know my name. When the electricity stopped, everything stopped. The noise, the heat, the feeling of the safety harness digging into my sides. It was all gone. And I was floating. It was so calm. I looked down and saw my body on the ground. It looked like a doll somebody had dropped, small and broken. Dave was running toward it, screaming into his radio. Other guys were running from their trucks. There was panic down there, but up where I was, there was only peace. A strange, quiet peace that didn't make any sense. I wasn't scared. That was the craziest part. I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. It was like watching a movie of someone else's life. I felt a little sad for the guy on the ground, for Caleb Hayes. I felt sad for Dave, who was now on his knees, starting chest compressions, his face pale with fear. I remember thinking about Emily. What would she do? How would anyone tell her? And then I thought of Leo at his t-ball game, looking up in the stands for a father who would never show up. A single tear, a feeling of a tear, rolled down my cheek, and in that moment of pure sadness, the world around me began to change. The scene below, the power lines, the trucks, it all started to dissolve, like a painting left out in the rain. The colors ran together, the edges blurred, and everything faded into a soft, gentle darkness. It wasn't a scary darkness. It was a comfortable, velvet black. It felt ancient and safe. I wasn't floating anymore. I was just there, held. I had no body, no eyes, no ears, but I could perceive everything. I was just a point of awareness, a single thought named Caleb, resting in the quiet. And then I felt a change in the air. That's the only way I can describe it. The darkness wasn't empty anymore. It began to hum, not a sound but a feeling, a frequency. It was the feeling of a parent walking into a room when you're a little kid who's had a nightmare. You don't have to see them to know you're safe now. The very atmosphere shifts. A light began to grow. It wasn't like a light bulb turning on. It started as a single pinprick, impossibly far away, and then it swelled. It grew until it filled everything, but it didn't hurt my eyes. I didn't have eyes. This light, it was alive. It was made of something more than light. It was made of love. I know that word sounds small and cheap, but I don't have a better one. Imagine every good feeling you've ever had. The warmth of the sun on your face, the first time you held your child, the feeling of a perfect, peaceful sleep. Multiply that by 1,000,000,000. That was this light, and a form took shape within it. It was him. It was Jesus. But he looked nothing like the pictures. Nothing. There was no long flowing hair or clean white robe. What I saw was a man made of starlight and substance. His form was both solid and shifting, like a river of pure energy contained in the shape of a man. His presence didn't just radiate light, it created it. The space around him bent and sang. Time itself felt like it had stopped, holding its breath in awe. I felt so small, so utterly undone. I wasn't looking at a historical figure. I was standing in the presence of the engine of creation itself, the source of every atom and every galaxy. And then he looked at me. He didn't have eyes like you and I do. They were more like pools of liquid gold. And when they turned to me, I didn't feel judged. I felt known. Not just my secrets, not just the bad things I'd done. He knew the clumsy, unspoken love I had for my family. He knew the reasons for my every mistake. He knew the little boy inside me who was still afraid of the dark. He saw all of it, every broken piece, every messy corner of my heart. And his presence wasn't one of disappointment. It was a wave of overwhelming compassion that washed over me and through me, cleansing me. I didn't just feel loved. I felt like I was love, like I had returned to my original state, and the name for that state was love. I didn't speak with my mouth. I spoke with my heart. The thought just formed inside me. I'm sorry. His voice wasn't a sound. It was a feeling that bloomed in my very center. It was warmth and truth, and the sound of 1,000 harmonious bells all ringing at once. There is nothing to forgive, my son. You are home. Tears of pure joy, feelings of them streamed from me. I was a child who had been lost for a very, very long time, and my father had just found me. I just stayed there for a while, basking in his presence. It might have been a second or 1,000 years. Time didn't exist there. I was unburdening a lifetime of quiet fears and anxieties without saying a word. He just took them from me. He healed parts of me I didn't even know were broken. After a time, I felt a question form in my mind. What happens now? His presence grew even warmer, if that was possible. Now, you must understand. The world of light around me shifted. It was like he opened a door, not in space, but in my understanding. And he showed me things. He didn't show me my life flashing before my eyes. He showed me the world I had just left. He showed me a web of light covering the entire planet. It was beautiful, intricate, and fragile. It was the power grid I used to work on, but it was also something more. It was the network of connections that holds our modern world together. You worked with the light that powers their homes, he said, his voice a gentle thunder inside me. But men have become dependent on their own light, and they have forgotten the true light. And then he showed me the first blackout. The scene unfolded before me. I was no longer in the light, but floating above the earth, looking down on America at night. I saw a map of the West Coast, from Seattle down to San Diego. A flicker. Then a huge section of the map just went dark. I saw cities plunge into chaos. Not riots at first, just confusion and fear. I saw families huddled in their homes, the glow of their cell phones the only light. But then the phones died. The water stopped pumping. The stores were emptied in a day. The sick in hospitals began to suffer. It was a test, a severe warning. Some people came together. I saw neighbors who had never spoken before sharing food and water. I saw candlelight vigils and prayers in the streets. But I also saw darkness in people's hearts rise to the surface. Looting, fear, violence. The blackout lasted for weeks. When the power finally returned, things were different. The trust was gone. The seed of fear had been planted. Then, Jesus showed me the second blackout. This one was bigger. It covered nearly the entire eastern half of the nation. It wasn't an accident this time. He made me understand it was deliberate, an attack, not with bombs, but with code. A cyber weapon. This time, the darkness was deeper, colder. It happened in the winter. The vision was horrifying. I saw families burning their own furniture to stay warm. I saw the desperation in a mother's eyes as she couldn't find medicine for her child. I saw the anger and the division as communities turned on each other. The thin veneer of civilization was stripped away so fast, the government was overwhelmed. Help wasn't coming. It was every man for himself. And the spiritual darkness was even worse. I saw demonic things, shadowy figures, feeding on the fear and the hate. They whispered in people's ears, turning neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother. Faith was a distant memory for most. People were cursing God. They were crying out, "Why would God let this happen?" I felt a wave of sorrow so profound it almost unmade me. I turned my awareness back to Jesus. Why? Why are you showing me this? It's too much. His presence was a comfort, but his truth was firm. Because my people must be prepared, not with guns and supplies, but with light in their hearts. When all other lights go out, theirs must shine. Then he showed me the third blackout. This one was almost total, the whole country. It was the final blow. I saw millions of people, just gone, not all from violence or starvation. Many died from hopelessness. Their spirits just gave up. The world they knew was gone, and they had nothing else to hold on to. The visions were so real. I could smell the smoke. I could feel the cold. I could hear the cries of a nation in darkness. But then, in the midst of the deepest black, I saw flickers of light. Tiny pinpricks, just like the one that had announced his arrival to me. He zoomed my focus in. I saw a small community in the mountains of Colorado. They had gathered in a church. There was no power, but the room was bright. The light was coming from them. They were praying, singing. They were sharing the little food they had, taking care of the sick. Their faces weren't filled with fear. They were filled with a calm, powerful faith. He showed me another group in a basement in what looked like Chicago. They were reading a Bible by a single candle, and the love between them was so real, so tangible, it was like a shield against the darkness outside. He showed me dozens of these little pockets of light, people who had prepared their hearts, people whose faith wasn't in the power grid or the government, but in him. They were the light of the world, for real. The vision faded, and I was back in his pure, loving light. I was trembling. This is not a promise of what must be. His voice soothed my soul. It is a vision of what could be, if men do not turn back to me. The darkness is coming, but darkness is only the absence of light. My children are the light. You must go back and tell them to be ready. Tell them to fill their lamps. Go back? The thought was a shock. Go back where? To your life, Caleb, to Emily, to Leo. A profound sadness washed over me. I didn't want to go. The thought of leaving this presence, this feeling of absolute love and belonging, was agony. The world I came from was so heavy, so full of pain and worry. This was heaven. This was home. I can't, I thought, the feeling tearing me apart. Please, don't make me leave. I want to stay with you. I felt like a child begging his father not to leave him at school. I could feel his smile. It was a feeling of pure, gentle understanding. Your son is waiting for you at his game. He needs his father. Your wife needs her husband. Your work is not done. You have a message to carry. He showed me an image of Leo, standing near the dugout, looking up into the empty stands, and an image of Emily, her face twisted in grief as she received the phone call. The love I felt for them surged, a powerful anchor pulling me back. It was a different kind of love than the one I felt from Jesus, but it was a reflection of it, a part of it. How? I asked. How can I leave this and go back to that? I will be with you, he promised. I have never left you. Now, when they call your name, you must answer. The light began to fade, not into darkness, but back into the reality I had left behind. I felt my spirit being pulled, stretched, like a thread being pulled through the eye of a needle. The peace was receding, the pain was returning. I felt a tremendous pressure, a squeezing sensation. I didn't want to go. I fought it. No, please, I cried out with my soul. His last words to me were not a command, but a promise that echoed through my entire being as I fell back into the dark. Be my light, a voice was shouting. Clear, a violent jolt, like being struck by lightning all over again, slammed through me. I've got a pulse. We've got a pulse. My eyes shot open. The light was blinding. Harsh, ugly, fluorescent light. Not the living light of heaven. The sounds were a mess of panicked voices, beeping machines, the crinkle of plastic. I was on my back, on something hard. The sky was gone. I was in an ambulance. My chest felt like it had been kicked in by a horse. Every part of my body screamed in agony. I gasped, a raw, ragged sound, and tried to sit up. A paramedic gently pushed me back down. Whoa, easy there, man. Easy. You gave us a real scare. I looked at him, my mind a swirling fog. What? My voice was a croak. You were electrocuted, buddy. Fell about 30 feet. Your heart stopped. We've been working on you for a long time. He looked at his partner, his eyes wide with disbelief. A long time. And mine's for buddy. Later, in the hospital, the doctor came into my room. He was a kind-looking man with gray hair and tired eyes. He held a chart in his hands and kept looking at it, then at me, then back at the chart. Emily was by my side, her hand squeezing mine so hard I could feel her bones. She had been crying, but now her face was just a mask of shock and relief. The doctor cleared his throat. Mr. Hayes, Caleb, I'm Dr. Morrison. He paused. According to the paramedics' report, your heart was stopped for 22 minutes. He let that hang in the air. We have a term for that. We call it clinically dead. In all my years, I have never, ever seen someone come back after that long without severe, catastrophic brain damage. Most don't come back at all. He looked right into my eyes. But your scans are perfect. Your brain activity is completely normal. Medically speaking, what happened to you today, it's not possible. It's a miracle. I just lay there, the doctor's words washing over me. 22 minutes. For 22 minutes, I was gone. But I wasn't gone. I was home. And I started to weep, not from pain or fear, but from the memory of that love, the memory of that light, and the weight of the message I had to bring back. Emily held me, confused, telling me everything was okay now, that I was safe. But I knew the truth. The world I had come back to was not as safe as we all thought. So why am I telling you all this? I'm not a preacher. I'm just a lineman from Oklahoma who died and came back. But I have to tell you what he told me. I have to deliver the message. He didn't show me those blackouts to scare us into hiding in bunkers with cans of beans. That's not it at all. He showed me so that we would understand how fragile this world we've built, Island. We've put our faith in electricity, in the internet, and our money and our governments. And all of that can be turned off with the flip of a switch. What he's asking is for us to turn on a different kind of light, a light that can't be shut down, a light that lives inside every single one of us. It's the light of faith, the light of compassion, the light of loving your neighbor, even when it's hard, even when you're scared. The darkness is coming. I saw it, but we don't have to be afraid of it. A candle is never more beautiful, never more powerful than when it is shining in a pitch black room. He's calling you. He's calling all of us to be those candles, to prepare our hearts, to forgive those who have wronged us, to love our families, to seek him in the quiet moments, to fill ourselves up with his light so that when all the other lights go out, we can shine. Heaven is real. Jesus is real. And he's not a distant CEO. He's a loving father waiting for his children to come home. But our work here isn't done yet. He hears you when you pray. He knows your name. And he's asking you, right now, will you be his light?